The moment my son's name card landed on a folding table shoved against the kitchen doors, right next to the caterer's supply boxes, I knew this wedding was never about celebrating anyone. It was about putting me in my place. "Servants eat well here too," my sister-in-law Vanessa said, loud enough for 3 tables to hear her, then smiled like she'd just complimented me. My son was 7 years old. He looked up at me, confused, holding his little clip-on tie, and asked, "Mom, why are we sitting here?" I smiled at him. "Because Mommy has a surprise for later, baby." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cause a scene. I just sat down, folded my napkin in my lap, and waited. Because in my purse, folded inside a plain white envelope, was a piece of paper that was about to turn Vanessa's perfect wedding into the worst night of her life. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, hit the like button right now. If you've ever stayed silent while someone underestimated you, comment here, below. And subscribe to Story Retribution, because tonight's ending proves that karma always arrives, just not when people expect it. My name is Claire. I'm 34 years old, and for the last 9 years, I've been married into a family that never fully accepted me. My husband, Daniel, is a good man, steady, kind, a little too forgiving of his own family for his own good. We have one son, Micah, who is the sweetest, gentlest kid you'll ever meet. He deserved better than what happened at that wedding. Every child does. Daniel's family is what people politely call old money, new attitude. His parents built a successful real estate business decades ago, and everyone in the family grew up believing their name opened doors. Vanessa, Daniel's younger sister, was the golden child. Vanessa got the private school. Vanessa got the trust fund. Vanessa got the wedding budget that could have paid off my mortgage twice over. I never envied her money. What I envied, what I resented, if I'm honest, was how she treated people she considered beneath her. And apparently, that included me. From the day Daniel introduced me to his family, Vanessa made it clear I wasn't the right fit. I didn't come from money. I grew up working 2 jobs to put myself through college. I met Daniel when I was a receptionist at the real estate office his parents owned, and Vanessa never let me forget it. "Oh, Claire still remembers how to answer phones, right?" She'd joke at family dinners, and everyone would laugh like it was harmless. I stayed quiet. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. Daniel loved me. Micah was happy. That was enough. Then Vanessa got engaged to a man named Preston, old family friend, trust fund kid, exactly her type, and suddenly, every family gathering became a countdown to the wedding of the century, as she called it, twice. Here's what nobody in that family knew. 2 years before the wedding, Vanessa and Preston had been searching for the perfect venue and fell in love with a restored countryside estate, the Ashwood Manor, famous for its gardens and its ridiculous price tag. They couldn't afford the deposit without dipping into money Preston's family had earmarked for something else, and Vanessa refused to ask her parents because she wanted this wedding to be all hers. So she came to me, not to Daniel, to me. She showed up at my house on a Tuesday afternoon, sat at my kitchen table, and for the first time in 9 years asked me for help instead of mocking me. "I need a loan," she said, "just to cover the deposit. I'll pay you back before the wedding, I promise. Please don't tell Daniel. I don't want him thinking I can't handle my own wedding." I should have said no. Every instinct told me to say no. But I thought, foolishly, that maybe this was the moment things could change between us. Maybe helping her would finally earn me a place in this family that wasn't the outsider or the receptionist. So I gave her the money, quietly. Through a private transfer structured as a gift to the venue directly, with my name listed as the contributing party on the official booking documents, because the venue required a paper trail for deposits that large. Vanessa signed as the coordinating client, but the financial contribution, the actual gift that secured Ashwood Manor for her wedding, came from me. I kept every document, every email, every signed form. Not because I planned revenge. I didn't. Not then. But because I'm the kind of person who keeps receipts. Literally and figuratively. Vanessa never paid me back. Worse, she never once acknowledged what I'd done. Instead, as the wedding got closer, she got colder. She started introducing me to her fiancé's family as Daniel's wife, never by name. She stopped inviting Micah to her pre-wedding events, saying they were adults only, even though her other nieces and nephews were always there. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I'd done a good thing, and good things don't need applause. Then came the wedding day. Ashwood Manor looked like something out of a fairy tale, string lights woven through ancient oak trees, white roses cascading down every table, a string quartet playing near the fountain. 200 guests in their finest clothes, champagne flowing before the ceremony even started. Micah was so excited. He'd picked out his own little suit. He kept asking if he'd get to dance with Auntie Vanessa, like he did at other family parties. We arrived early, checked in with the wedding coordinator, and were directed toward the reception hall to find our seats before the ceremony began. I scanned the elegant place cards, looking for Claire and Daniel, expecting our usual spot near Daniel's parents. Instead, I found our names, Daniel's included, at a table near the back corner of the room, wedged against the service doors where the catering staff would be running trays in and out all night. No decorations. Mismatched chairs pulled from storage. And directly across from Micah's little handwritten name card, someone had scrawled underneath it, almost too small to notice at first. Kids of staff. I stood there for a long moment, staring at those 3 words. Daniel saw it too. His jaw tightened. "This has to be a mistake," he said, already reaching for his phone to call the coordinator. That's when Vanessa appeared, radiant in her wedding gown, surrounded by bridesmaids, clearly enjoying the attention of the room. "Oh, there you are," she said, spotting us near the table. Then she saw our faces and glanced at the seating chart, and something in her expression shifted. Not embarrassment, but amusement. "Is there a problem?" she asked, voice raised just enough for nearby guests to hear. "Micah's seat says kids of staff," Daniel said quietly. "What is that supposed to mean?" Vanessa laughed, an airy, performative laugh meant for an audience. "It's a joke, Danny. Don't be so sensitive." Then she looked at me and her voice dropped just slightly colder. "Servants eat well here too." A few guests nearby chuckled awkwardly. Others looked away, uncomfortable but silent. Nobody corrected her. Nobody stood up for us. Micah tugged my sleeve. "Mom, why are we sitting here? Why did she say that?" I crouched down to his level, smiling the way you smile when your heart is breaking, but your child needs to see strength, not pain. "Because tonight, baby, we're going to show everyone something very special. Can you do Mommy a favor and just be patient a little longer?" He nodded, still confused, but trusting me the way only a 7-year-old can. I stood back up, looked Vanessa directly in the eyes, and said the only words I allowed myself in that moment. "Enjoy your wedding, Vanessa." Then I sat down at that back table next to the kitchen doors, and I waited. Daniel wanted to leave immediately. He was furious, gripping his phone, ready to call his parents, ready to make a scene of his own. I put my hand on his arm. "Not yet," I said quietly. "Trust me. Let her have her ceremony. Let her have her toasts. There's a better time for this." He looked at me, searching my face, and something in my calmness must have told him I had a plan, because he exhaled slowly and nodded. "Okay, I trust you." Throughout the ceremony, I sat with my hands folded, watching Vanessa exchange vows under an arch of white roses, listening to Preston promise to honor and protect her forever. I thought about the deposit. I thought about the quiet request at my kitchen table. I thought about kids of staff written under my son's name. I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt something calmer and somehow more dangerous. Resolve. During the reception, as course after course was served, I watched Vanessa move from table to table, laughing, hugging guests, thanking them for coming, glowing under the string lights like she'd built this entire fairy tale with her own 2 hands. She never once came to our table. Micah, to his credit, made the best of it. He befriended 2 of the catering staff's kids who were seated with us, and by dessert, they were all laughing over cake, completely unaware of the humiliation layered into where they were sitting. Kids have a way of finding joy anywhere, even when adults try to take it from them. Then came time for toasts. Preston's best man gave a sweet, if overly long, speech about loyalty and brotherhood. Vanessa's maid of honor, her closest friend Renata, stood up next, champagne glass in hand, ready to deliver what was clearly a rehearsed, sentimental speech about Vanessa's generous heart and incredible independence in planning this entire wedding practically on her own. That's when I stood up, not dramatically, not with anger. I simply rose from my seat near the kitchen doors, walked calmly toward the front of the room, and asked the DJ, quietly, if I could add a short toast. He glanced at the coordinator, who glanced at Vanessa, who, probably assuming I wanted to say something kind, something that would make her look even more gracious in front of everyone, nodded and gestured for me to come up. I took the microphone. The room quieted, curious about the woman from the back table finally stepping forward. "Hi everyone," I said, my voice steady. "For those who don't know me, I'm Claire, Daniel's wife, Vanessa's sister-in-law." A few polite smiles. Vanessa was still smiling too, though something behind her eyes had gone still. "I want to say something about generosity tonight," I continued, "because Renata mentioned Vanessa planned this beautiful wedding practically on her own, and I think that deserves a little context." Vanessa's smile faltered just slightly. 2 years ago, I said, Vanessa came to me, not to her parents, not to Preston's family, to me, quietly asking for help securing the deposit for this very venue, Ashwood Manor. She was worried she couldn't afford it, and she didn't want anyone to know. Whispers rippled through the room. Vanessa's face had gone pale, her champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips. "I helped her," I continued, "because I loved this family, and I wanted to be part of it, even when it didn't always feel like I was welcome." I paused, letting that land. The venue required documentation for deposits of that size. Contributing party names, transfer records, signed booking forms. I reached into my clutch and pulled out the plain white envelope I'd carried all night. I opened it and held up a folded document for the room to see, not close enough to read, but unmistakably official. "This is the original booking contract for Ashwood Manor," I said. "Page 3 lists the contributing financial party for the deposit that secured this venue 2 years ago. Would anyone like to guess whose name is on it?" Renata, still holding the microphone adjacent moment awkwardly, blinked. "Wait, what?" "Vanessa," I said gently, looking directly at her. "Would you like to tell everyone, or should I read it myself?" The entire reception hall had gone silent, except for the soft hum of string lights buzzing overhead. 200 guests, frozen mid-bite, mid-sip, mid-breath. Vanessa's mouth opened. Nothing came out. "Go ahead," I said quietly. "Tell everyone." She looked around the room, at her new husband, whose confused expression was quickly shifting into something more serious, at her parents seated near the front, exchanging a horrified glance, at Renata, who slowly lowered her champagne glass like she no longer trusted her own hand. Vanessa started, voice cracking. It wasn't a big deal. I was going to pay her back." "You told me not to tell Daniel," I said, still calm. "You told me this was between us. I kept that promise for 2 years, Vanessa." Even after you sat my son at a table labeled Kids of Staff tonight. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few guests actually turned to stare at our back table, only now noticing where Micah had been seated all evening. Preston, Vanessa's new husband, stood up slowly. "Is that true?" he asked her directly. "You put Claire's son at a servant's table after she paid for our venue?" Vanessa had no answer. Her carefully constructed composure, the one she'd worn all night like part of her wedding gown, completely collapsed. She stood frozen, lips trembling, unable to form a single coherent sentence. Daniel's mother rose from her seat near the front, her face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and fury. "Vanessa Marie, is this true?" Still nothing, just silence and the sound of Vanessa's champagne glass slipping slightly in her shaking hand. Renata, who had been standing beside her this entire time, slowly stepped back, putting distance between herself and the bride. "I had no idea about any of this," she said quietly, more to the room than to Vanessa. "I need to sit down." That was the moment I knew it was over, not just the toast. The illusion Vanessa had built for years, the golden child, the generous bride, the woman who did it all on her own, shattered in front of everyone who had ever believed it. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. I simply folded the document, slid it back into the envelope, and looked at Vanessa one final time. "I'm not here to ruin your wedding," I said. "I'm here because my son deserved better than what you gave him tonight, and I refuse to stay silent about it anymore." I handed the microphone back to the stunned DJ, walked calmly back to our table, took my son's hand, and said, "Come on, sweetheart, let's go say goodnight to Daddy's family." Micah, still not fully understanding what had just happened, waved cheerfully at the crowd. A few guests, still in shock, waved back out of pure reflex. Daniel met us halfway across the room, his expression a mixture of pride and disbelief. "You had that documentation this whole time?" "I've had it for 2 years," I said quietly. "I just never wanted to need it." We didn't storm out. We didn't slam doors or cause any further scene. We simply gathered our things, thanked the few family members who approached us with quiet apologies, and left with our dignity fully intact, which was more than Vanessa could say for the rest of her wedding night. The aftermath, as I later learned through Daniel's parents, was brutal for Vanessa. Preston reportedly spent their entire wedding night demanding answers, furious that she'd hidden financial dependence on me while treating me and my son with such open contempt. Several guests quietly left early. Renata publicly distanced herself from Vanessa on social media within days, posting a vague but pointed message about loyalty and how it's earned, not assumed. Daniel's parents, horrified by what their daughter had done, personally called to apologize to us. The first time in 9 years they'd ever acknowledged how Vanessa treated me. They insisted on reimbursing the original deposit amount, though I told them it was never really about the money. Micah, thankfully, bounced back the way children often do. A week later, he asked me, "Mom, was that lady mean to us because she didn't like where we sat?" I knelt down and looked him in the eyes. "Some people try to make others feel small so they can feel bigger, baby, but it never actually works. And you know what matters more than any seat at any table?" "What?" "Sitting with people who truly love you. That's the only seat that counts." He smiled, satisfied with that answer, and ran off to play, already forgetting the sting of that awful night. Kids have a beautiful way of healing faster than adults. As for Vanessa and me, we haven't spoken since. Family gatherings are undeniably tense now, and some relatives still whisper about what Claire did at the wedding. But I don't regret a single word. Because here's what I've learned. You can be patient. You can be generous. You can quietly help the very people who look down on you, hoping it earns their respect. But respect isn't something you can buy with silence, and dignity isn't something you should have to beg for. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't loud. It isn't cruel. It's simply the truth, spoken calmly, at exactly the right moment, in front of exactly the right people. I never raised my voice that night. I never had to. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button right now. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my situation? If you enjoy stories about family betrayal, emotional drama, shocking revenge, and the justice that always finds its way back, subscribe to Story Retribution and turn on the bell so you never miss the next story. Tomorrow's story might be even more unbelievable. See you then.